We went from this...
How did the Home Office get itself into this mess with up to 4,000 people being detained at Manston? Who, as Home Secretary, obviously you carry the can for this, so is it your responsibility? Is it a previous Home Secretary? Is it Grant Shapps for his short tenure as Home Secretary? Whose fault is it that we had this crisis?
Well, I think that's a fair question. I'm not going to point the finger of blame at any one person. It's not as simple as that.
To this.
Which are intent on stopping us, whether it's immigration lawyers, charities, NGOs, many of whom have very close links with the Labour Party.
And all ended up doing the rounds on the BBC, Sky News and ITV. And boy, did she get her arse kicked, especially in some alternate reality involving Richard Madeley. Let's leave that to the end, and let's focus on what she had to say about the fire service.
Gates Union are making headlines again today. They say that they have written to you expressing safety concerns. They say the barge is a death trap, potentially, and they say you won't meet them. Why not?
Yes, why would you not want to meet with the fire service? And we're going to go into the realm of conspiracy theory. It seems Nigel Farage's thinking is contagious within the Tory party.
Well, let me be clear that I'm confident that the barge is safe. This barge has accommodated people in the past, asylum seekers, oil rig workers, and barges of this kind have been used to accommodate asylum seekers, for example, in Scotland. So I'm very confident that this barge is safe for human habitation. We followed all of the advice and protocols in anticipation of embarkation.
Followed all the advice except for the fire service. So, let's have a listen to the fire service.
Fires were to take hold on the Bibby Stockholm. Firefighters attempting to make entry and find the seat of fire and likely at some point make rescues would be greatly hampered by its design and over occupancy.
And let's have a listen to the mayor of the town.
What would be your desired outcome of this action?
My desired outcome would be that the Bibby Stockholm would be consigned to the dustbin of history. As I said, I'm not one of these NIMBYs. It's not that I don't want the Bibby Stockholm in my backyard. I don't want it in anybody's backyard. I don't think it's a suitable environment to house vulnerable people. And I would like to see it leave Portland and just sail off into the sunset.
If you could speak to Suella Braverman in a personal capacity, it was just you talking, what would you say to her?
I'd ask her how she could sleep at night. These are people, human beings, and to behave so cruelly and insensitively, it staggers me. I have no words.
And here comes the conspiracy theories, and they're not going to stop all morning.
But let's be clear about what the Fire Brigade Union are doing. They are a Labour-affiliated union. They are carrying out a political attack on the government through their challenge right now. They want to stop us, just like we're dealing with the range of forces who want to stop us from stopping the boats, whether it's immigration lawyers, charities, NGOs, the Labour Party. They're all gleeful about the prospect of us not putting people on the barge, of boats coming across.
They would say
the
that
channel.
they're raising
This is all part
serious
of a political
safety
attempt
concerns,
to stop us
wouldn't
from
they?
delivering on our pledge.
They would say that they're registering severe safety concerns.
And here's Michael Heseltine to give everyone a reminder. They've had the power for 13 years, and boy, do they have a lot of power.
You've had 6 years with your hands on the levers of power.
Well, we'd love to have had 6 years.
Don't
We'd
tell me
love
it's
to have
people
had
like
that.
me or civil servants.
It's always someone else. Here's what they had to say about the police.
You're talking today about police committing to pursue all reasonable lines of inquiry. Why on earth are they not doing that already?
Good morning. Very pleased to join you. Well, since I've become Home Secretary about a year ago, I've been working on a huge programme of police reform to ensure that the police get back to basics, common sense policing, as I call it. It means removing unnecessary burdens from police time, like mental health call-out.
So if someone is in a mental health crisis and they're needing support, who are you meant to call? The fire brigade? The ambulance service? Social services? Are they in a position to come out and help with this? It begs all sorts of questions, and it's just this continual attitude to the weakest or the people suffering the most in society.
Or Home Office counting rules and needless bureaucracy.
And the Home Office counting needless rules... What? What did she say?
Or Home Office counting rules and needless bureaucracy.
The Home Office counting needless rules in our society. What is she talking about?
It means a record number of police officers, and now it also means taking every crime seriously, ensuring that no crime is treated as minor, and making sure that they follow up on every reasonable line of inquiry. This is a landmark commitment. I've challenged the police to make this agreement. It's now over to them.
It's now over to them. It's that simple. So no extra resources, but we're going to come on to this in a minute.
To actually deliver this on the ground, on case-by-case instances, so that victims of crime have greater confidence in the police, knowing that they will follow up on leads, that they will take theft, robbery.
You mean like the 21 billion of public money lost in fraud since COVID? That type of fraud? Or the people that got given fast-track contracts to supply PPE during the COVID pandemic and didn't produce any goods that were even usable? You mean those people?
Drug dealing.
Like all the cocaine that was discovered inside Westminster? That type of drug dealing?
Street-level drug crime, more seriously.
Oh, right, street level, not posh people or people in power. Not that crime.
There are no extra resources, there are no extra staff to do these jobs. The police are not sitting around on their hands, are they? They are all working at the moment. So what will go as a result of this? What will they not be investigating?
Well, I disagree with you. There are no extra resources. We've just recruited 20,000 additional police officers. So we now have
recruited 3,000 additional police officers. You lost 20,000 police officers, didn't you, over from 2010 up to the latest date? So you've lost 20,000, you've gained 23,000. So you've gained 3,000.
That's wrong. We now have a record number of police officers.
It's the Home Office figures that I have
ever in the history of policing, far higher than any previous administration. So the police have the greatest number of police officers they've ever had at their disposal.
Okay.
That might be true about it being the biggest number, but it doesn't take into account that population size has increased since 2010 from about 60 million to 67 million. So what does that actually mean for the number of police officers per 1,000 people in the UK? It's less. It's less than 2010, where we had 171 police officers per 1,000 of the population. We've got less, and she's trying to sell it to all of us as if they've broken some magnificent record. There are fewer cops per 1,000. That means they're not able to process as many crimes, and she wants them investigating every single crime. She is deluded.
It's ensuring and instilling confidence in the public that the police will follow up when they see leads and they have actionable evidence. So if...
Is it? Is it really? Well, this is going to be interesting because Channel 4 handed over 10 leads in the Epstein case.
Well, tonight the Met is also under pressure over a far more recent scandal. An investigation by this programme into the notorious sex abuser Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged partner Ghislaine Maxwell has found multiple claims that the pair targeted, groomed, trafficked and sexually abused at least half a dozen young women in the UK over a 10-year period. The allegations have never been fully investigated by the Metropolitan Police, despite repeated complaints to the force. The Metropolitan Commissioner has previously insisted that any decision not to investigate had nothing to do with Prince Andrew, but that it was a matter for the US authorities where Ghislaine Maxwell is facing trial. But tonight, senior legal figures in the UK who have reviewed our evidence from this country are calling for a full criminal investigation into what they call serious allegations.
But by August of 2022, the Met Police have completely dropped any investigation, despite all the leads given by Channel 4. We don't have a police service that wants to investigate those in power. no matter how disgusting the crime.
If a victim of crime comes forward and has some evidence that their car is being resold online, if a victim of crime has CCTV footage of a burglary being committed or a robbery taking place, if they can provide information from a Find My Phone tracking app or GPS data, if there's a sight or smell of cannabis on the streets, those kinds of leads, those evidential leads, will be sufficient now for the police to take action and to follow those up. That's modelled on a successful and pioneering approach taken in Greater Manchester Police, where following every reasonable line of inquiry, work to increase the charge rate, increase outcomes for victims, and increase victim confidence.
Oh my God, what a vacuous announcement that was this morning.
Say what you think, Jackie. Start off.
I hardly know where to start, really. I mean, policing has always been complex, and that's why I call it vacuous. I mean, it's so easy, isn't it, to make these pronouncements and try and weaponise policing and draw it into the political debate, and that's what we've seen so much of, haven't we, with this government trying to bring policing into politics, and instead of that having that separation of the powers. But the Home Secretary really does need to take responsibility for the erosion of staff, experience and investigative structures which have caused this problem. I mean, yes, there is a problem. How do you quantify an old lady being burgled, having her husband's medals stolen as a crime, and saying what level of seriousness is that? What we need is better community policing, what we used to call beat crime teams, who would investigate what we call low-level crimes, but because they are so embedded and knowledgeable about the community, they already have the resources, the knowledge to be able to cut through a lot of the work that officers are having to do now in order to get to know their community and get to know the sorts of people who are committing these crimes. Because quite often things like burglary, it's the same people over and over again. But when you haven't got that knowledge and experience and investigative ability and to be able to construct an investigation and immediately sort of jump through the paces and go to where you need to go to get the person responsible, you're always starting from scratch. And what we have is 20,000 officers parachuted into policing over the last couple of years, and we've lost all that investigative experience. They're even, in recruiting officers direct into investigative roles. Now, you can't walk into a police station and say, right, go and investigate this burglary.
So what you're saying, Jackie, is that the irrespective of the Home Secretary and the government saying, well, we've recruited these extra 20,000 officers, the fact is that it isn't just about numbers. It's going to take a long time for those officers to get up to the level of those that the police force, the experience that the police officers in the past have lost.
Where have we heard something like that before? Oh, yeah.
Home Secretary, I wonder if you'd comment on the reports that the people being hired by the Home Office to clear the asylum processing backlog are getting just 2 days of training, and that many of them are getting their information about the countries that people are fleeing from Lonely Planet and the Rough Guide.
That's a concerning report. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm not sure if there's anything you can say about the kind of training that people are getting. But ultimately, these are really important decisions that people are making. It's important that they receive sufficient training, that they are using the appropriate guidance issued by government and verified by independent expertise when these decisions are being made. So we want to ensure that our caseworkers are properly remunerated and ensure that they have the proper resources to work productively.
But it didn't end there. We entered into some sort of paradox universe where Richard Madeley sort of turned into a Piers Morgan of COVID and really held Suella to account.
But on behalf of the viewers watching this programme who may have been burgled last night, and like many people who've contacted us today, lost their vehicles at the weekend and got a crime number, as you say. Now, please stop generalising and telling us how great it all is in other areas. Please deal with these figures. 2%, 4% and 6%. This is the third time of asking in the space of 2 minutes. I want a specific answer, please, Home Secretary, not a generalised everything in the garden's lovely. Now, tell us what's gone wrong.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. It's not good enough. That's exactly why I've challenged the police. That's why I've asked them over several months, and we've reached an agreement, a landmark agreement, whereby the police will be following up on those leads if a house is burgled. One of the first things I did as Home Secretary was call.
I've never heard Richard Madeley get exacerbated like that. It's wow.
For the police to attend every domestic burglary, something they weren't doing for far too long. It's absolutely vital that the police get to a scene of a crime in what they call the golden hour, so that they can retrieve potentially incriminating evidence. And failure to attend a domestic burglary is absolutely unacceptable.
And why is
That's why I made that announcement back in
Just a total car crash of a morning for her. And that didn't even go into detail about migration and what she was saying. But I don't want to recap on that, because it's just total bollocks. Thanks for listening. Thanks to my patrons and my YouTube supporters. You keep this channel going and growing. If you've gotten this far in the video, you must have liked it, so click that subscribe button. And as usual, thanks for listening. Bye for now.